obviously this is a little unique. We've never tried this before, so we're going to try to make it as clean and as easy as we can. A reminder to everyone, if you're not saying anything, it would be best to mute your mic, because the feedback to the others can get kind of hairy if you do. Probably the way we'll do any voting or motions tonight, when we make the motion in the second, then when we call for the vote, instead of everybody saying aye, what I'm going to do is just ask you to raise your hand so that we'll see it, but it's going to be hard for everybody to try to talk at the same time to say aye or nay. So with that in mind, we'll start. And the first item on our agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. So Kevin, I will turn that over to you.
All right, thank you. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for being able to get together today with the knowledge and technology that we have today, Lord. We thank you for the people, the hard work that they put together to make this happen. And Lord, we ask you we pray for our country, for this virus. Lord, we pray for each and every, the frontliners, the doctors, the nurses. We pray for their health and safety. And Lord, may we overcome this disease and may we find a cure. Now we ask you to be with us as we gather tonight to do the school business, to do the work pleasing in your sight. And may we all know that you're there fighting for us. So that now, Lord, we just ask you to be with us tonight. For your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With that, we move to the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and unless there's an objection, then the consent agenda will stand approved. We move now to unfinished business where there is no unfinished business. So we then move to new business, which will be item A is consideration of waiver of board policy DIB, types of funds, revolving funds for CARES Act funds. So with that, I will turn the podium over to Dr. James.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, like the other districts in the state, we will be getting some monies from the federal government, CARES Act money. We have a 24-month period of time that money can be spent. And what we're asking is just to make certain that this money stays separate from our general fund balance, that it's allowed to carry over. So to make certain that stays on a different account, we're asking that the board waive this policy specifically for this pot of money only.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we waive policy DIB for CARES Act funding to be certain it is kept separate from the general fund balance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If you would, just kind of go one at a time. Make sure to turn your mic on and off as you talk. I don't see anybody raising any issue for discussion. So, okay, Beth?
So, Bill, are we putting this in, I'm a little confused. Are we putting it in the CPIF fund? Is that what we're doing with the CARES money?
No, that's what we're making certain that we don't do, is because it's not set up for fund balance the CPIF is based off of a portion of the fund balance. We don't want this government stimulus money to end up in the CPIF or into our general fund budget, because it's designed to help us through the budget crisis caused by this pandemic.
So are we putting it in a separate fund completely by itself, so we know it's kind of like a dedicated account, even if it's bookkeeping? I'm not asking, what bank or anything, but so it's this is the CARES money. We can go to it if we end up having a funding cliff year like we did in 2008.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We have a motion and a second to basically keep the CARES, any CARES funds in a separate account, separate from the general fund and separate from CPIF. So all those in favor signify by raising your hand. I've got everybody, I got it unanimous, so motion passes. I assume Danette's with us. I meant to check early on. She's showing up, but I don't see her picture.
He's hiding from us.
She's there, but
I'm here.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're hearing it for the minutes.
Thank you. I've got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll move to the next item of business is consideration of amendment to Administrative Rule IKAR, grading and assessment systems. So,
yeah.
Dr. James?
Yes, sir. One portion of the Administrative Rule IKAR designates that the valedictorian, salutatorian, and honors graduates are calculated at 10 days prior to the date of graduation. With what we have going on at this point in time and trying to prepare for virtual alternatives to graduation and the fact that we don't have kids in school, we would like the board to waive that 10-day restriction for this year only, so that we can determine those students based on the end of their third 9 weeks grading period. Because one of the things that we're attempting to do is to go ahead and allow for those folks who would make speeches and all at graduation, we'd like to get them recorded in their regalia and that sort of thing. And 10 days before the end of school, we can't put together a virtual graduation. So for this year only, we would like to waive that designation.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve of the lifting of the 10-day restriction for determining grades for this year only.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Key. All right, discussion. Yes, Beth?
So are we saying we're not having a valedictorian and salutatorian, or we're saying we're going to just decide it 10 days, less than 10 days before? I don't understand. And I'm sorry, I was looking at, I missed the amended agenda and I found it on my computer. That's what I was looking at, but I didn't see an attachment on this. So can Dr. James please tell us?
I think the idea is that to announce it, or basically that we've got to go ahead and make a decision. So it's going to be announced prior to the 10 days. We'd have to go ahead and tell them that they are the valedictorian or the salutatorian now, so that they can be recorded giving their speeches and stuff and have time to put together a virtual graduation.
So we're not delaying it, we're fast forwarding it. We're doing it now. Okay.
That's correct. Because it's going to be based on the end of the third 9 weeks grades. Is that correct, Dr. James?
That is correct.
Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the moving of the announcement of the valedictorian and salutatorian to the end of the third 9 weeks, or based on the end of the third 9 weeks, to go ahead and announce it early, as soon as they have calculated the results. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. I have a unanimous vote. Motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of first and second reading of local board approved courses. Dr. Brooks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, y'all are used to approving local board approved classes at this point. As we've started working on scheduling for next school year, we've caught some classes that we need some course numbers for. These are not really additional courses. We already have the same number of courses in place, but we don't have numbers, and we're trying to make it where even numbered courses are in the fall and odd are in the spring, just to sort of help us keep track. So in doing that, I'm asking for first and second reading of instrumental music piano. That would be piano 6, piano 7, and piano 8, and then percussion 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. Dixon, on my right up here, it says percussion 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Down at the bottom, I just copied what goes into the course catalog so that you could see what was there.
Okay.
We already have one, and so this establishes the others.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, a motion to approve the first and second readings of the instrumental music, piano 6, 7, instrumental music, piano 7, instrumental music, piano 8, percussion 2, percussion 3, and percussion 4.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second by Ms. Kessler. Motion by Mr. Key, second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussions? Ms. Branham.
So I noticed this is only going to be offered, it looks like, at one school. Would the other high school students be able to choose to go over to the other school if they want to take advantage of these higher level piano courses and things?
Actually, once you approve the courses, they can take it at both high schools, but currently BC is the only high school that's interested in offering this many of them. But yes, both schools could use it.
But let's say Airport didn't want to use it, but my kids in 11th grade at Airport and they want to do it. Can they pick to go over to BC to take it if Airport didn't offer it?
That's something we can work out, absolutely.
They can, and we have students that go back and forth, but they could take that. They have to consider a period of travel time to be at Brooklyn Casey on time traveling from Airport, but yes, they could do that.
Any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Kessler.
Would these classes be stacked so that the teacher-pupil ratio would be maintained at a reasonable amount of students per class?
Yes.
Ms. Cuthbert, they're going to have to be, particularly in this year. One, you have so many different levels of piano and percussion, and then beyond that, with the fact that we know that the revenue this year at best will be what last year's was, so we can't afford piano classes were 4 kids, so it would have to be multi-level.
And this is one of those courses where we'll have multiple, we might have 6, 7, and 8 all in the same period. It's really just a way for us to award credit to kids.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the courses as presented by Dr. Brooks. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Okay, I have a unanimous vote. So we'll move on. Motion passes, so we move on to the next one. Is consideration of Brooklyn Casey High School roofing and HVAC replacement on the I-2 Tech building.
Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, what I'd like to do is just ask you to ratify and award this contract to Aqua Seal in the amount of $227,580.
Can you repeat that amount, please?
I didn't catch that, Christina. Could you repeat that?
I just said, could he repeat that amount, please?
It's already written into your notes, but $227,580.
Okay, thank you. I see it now. Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. Can you turn your mic on?
Thank you, Mr. Bingham. I'd like to recommend, if Mr. Eisenhower's okay with it, and you're okay with it, why don't he just go ahead and introduce all of the ones we're ratifying? I think there's 3 of them, and maybe we could just take one vote on all 3. Would that be bad? Or maybe beneficial?
I like it.
On and off is kind of, on and off mics is getting tough, like trying to even think about making motions. So if we can group some, I'm cool with it. And I would make the motion to do it, but I want Don to say it once what it's about.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to recommend that you ratify the roofing at Brooklyn Casey High School, the awarding of the HVAC equipment to train, and that is in the amount of $29,357. $29,357, and we put it out to bid. We're purchasing train equipment, and maintenance is going to install that. We've actually already purchased. And would I also like to ratify the next one, which is the preventive maintenance on all gym bleachers, basketball backboard cables, and winches throughout the district. And would like to ratify the contract with Mastercraft Renovation System in the amount of $5,423.
Don, can we also add F in there with the stairs?
Actually, the stairs, we can't because we got the prices. The prices were much more than what we had. We're doing this with a $15,000 grant, so we're going to ask that you allow us to do as much as we can with $15,000.
Mr. Bingham, I make a recommendation, we accept administration's recommendation to ratify the roofing at BC, the middle school HVAC replacement, and the gymnasium bleachers as recommended by administration.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Key. Any discussion?
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Or Don, is this the PM on the inspect form, the preventative maintenance on the bleachers, basketball cables? This is this is just an annual cost, right? This isn't a regular or an ongoing or perpetual kind of a maintenance program, is it? This is one time. Go ahead.
Mr. Summers, it should have been, but it is one that has been neglected for several years. And In fact, I've been here 5 years and we haven't done it, so it needs to be done. So yes, we need to do it every year. We need to inspect those things, and Mr. McPherson has asked to do that, and I think it's going to be one of our yearly things that we do.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought it would or should have been. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the 3 ratified contracts as presented. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Everyone's raised their hand, so it's unanimous vote. Motion passes. All right, next up is the consideration of BC High School's stair tread replacement.
Yes, Mr. Chair, once again, we got pricing to replace all of the rubber tread that goes on those concrete steps going from first to second floor, and the price came in at over $50,000. We only have a $15,000 grant to do this work, so we're asking that you allow us to do as much work as we can for the $15,000, and then just work at it as we can, as the funds are available.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. B, I make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the administration regarding the stair tread replacement at Brooklyn Casey High School.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Branham. We have a second?
And I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Key. All right, any discussion?
That contract, that is going to Bonnets. Bonnets is doing that one?
Yes, Bonnets is on state contract, so yes, it would be the Bonnets.
Okay.
All right, we have no further discussion tonight, so we have a motion to approve replacing the stair tread as far as 15 go, and then they'll continue to work on finding additional funds and doing additional stairs as they can. So all those in favor signify by raising your hand. But I can't see you. Okay. It's unanimous. Motion passes. All right. Next on the agenda is consideration of first and second reading of the 2020 and 21 Capital Projects Improvement Fund.
Yes, Mr. Chair, since this last month's meeting, we're asking for first and second reading. A copy of it is in your packet. Most of it will be going toward the new Performing Arts Center and also for computer replacement, as well as one-to-one devices. You happy to answer any questions you might have on that, but we'd like to ask again if you approve first and second reading so that we can include this in our budget.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the first and second reading of the 2020-21 CPIF budget.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the 2021 CPI budget, first and second reading. Do we have any discussion? Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's got any discussion. So we have a motion and a second to pass the CPIF budget. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. So it's unanimous, motion passes. All right, move to the next item is consideration of request for out-of-state overnight student travel for the Brooklyn Casey High School Honors Choir.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make, members of the board, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the trip with some conditions that if coronavirus is not better, that we always have a chance to back out. The course needs to go ahead and get it approved so they can start fundraising. It's a great opportunity for being part of the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request for out-of-state and overnight travel for the Brooklyn Casey High School Honors Choir to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, February the 10th to 16th, 2021.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And I have a question.
All right, go ahead.
And Jim, I didn't jump in there like I normally do because I do have concerns about this one based on everything, you know, we're reading in the news and the distance involved. But most importantly, I want them to have that opportunity. So I'm in favor of approving this, but I'm also concerned if we could please just double check with whatever company or group is doing this trip for them, because usually it's a travel company. I really want to, you know, let's get the travel insurance. Let's check on what the refund policy is because this is a pretty expensive trip for our students in our community. And I just want to make sure that if something comes up that, you know, we haven't given, you know, thousands in deposits that we cannot get refunded.
Yes, ma'am. We'll take care of that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the travel. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Count unanimous vote, so the motion passes.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have nothing on the divisional report front. We have Don with a construction update.
Finance, Mr. Bingham.
Did we miss that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Marty, I wasn't meaning to skip you.
That's all right. We can keep going. But I do have the revenue and expenditure reports for the month of March. The revenues are ahead of where they were this time last year, and expenditures are still staying about 2% ahead of last year. If there are any questions on the revenue or the expenditure report, I'll take those.
When you say ahead, you're meaning we're spending 2% more than we did last year at the same time.
Yes, sir. And it continues to be about the same percentage every month. So the percentage is not growing. It's still maintaining that 2 to 2.5% higher in expenditures than we were the same time last year.
So it just indicates there was something that caused the 2% jump in a month earlier, and then it's just following along with the expenses the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. And like I said before, when I tried to identify it, it's a lot of different places. It's not all in one place. Whenever I look at it, there's no big thing that sticks out. It's just there were some expenses that were higher. It started back in the late fall.
Okay.
I did do some projections when I was doing the March report, since we were 3/4 of the way through the school year. Whenever I project out through year end, we are still in a very positive situation overall. I do not have any concerns going into year end for us to have any issues. Your next report will be your pupil activity fund report. A couple of things that I wanted to make you all aware of. Whenever we closed, we had a lot of field trips that have been prepaid. We have been proactive, and we're not waiting on parents to request refunds. We are proactively refunding parents for all field trips that they had prepaid. So you're going to probably see some variances in these numbers, but we felt like that was the best thing that we could do for families. And the last report is the capital projects commitment. A couple of changes this month. I closed out Riverbank and Casey. So the numbers are going to look very different if you're comparing it to what you received last month. But our bottom line is about the same. We were showing a heavy amount that was available in Riverbank and Casey, and it's still maintaining the same amount of funds uncommitted. So it looks different, but it was the same information both months. We just closed those projects out.
Any questions?
And we wanted to talk to you. Dr. James and I have been talking about the budget update, and we have a few things we wanted to make you all aware of.
Without any objection, then the monthly financial reports will stand approved as presented. All right, now you can give us the budget update.
All right. As you all have been reading, there's a lot going on, and it looks like the state's going to have a continuing resolution. Marty and I have looked at not only this year's budget, but how do you plan to be in a good position for the 21-22 year budget, because Mr. Bingham referred to 2008, and that's exactly what happened. You had a cause, and then the effect was 2 years out. So we're trying to look ahead. But some things that are assumptions that we're putting in this budget, based on what we know from the state, is all salary scales and step increases are going to be frozen. So that's from the state, and that will be in every district. They've allowed us the maximum flexibility for carry forward of money, so we'll be able to move money forward. They have suspended the 1% increase for the retirement to be paid by the employer. We're looking at approximately $2 million in CARES Act funding, and that's exempt from the fund balance, and we have 24 months to spend that. We have a waiver on the 15% carry forward on the Title I money. We're looking at the idea of how the CARES Act money can help seed the needs for the 21-22 budget, in addition to getting what we need this year. We've got some information from the Board of Economic Advisors. Their expectations are changing, but according to Frank Rainwater, it's positive that the state started out with strong financial conditions, and he feels as though it will withstand this COVID-19 emergency. Through March, the revenues were $127 million above the revised forecast, so there was that surplus prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. And because the state started strong with surplus the previous year, and the collections were strong through March, the state shouldn't see a situation of budget cuts unless it gets phenomenally worse. At the current rate that we have right now, it would have to decline 15% per month to deplete the state surplus. During the recession of 2008 that everybody talks about, the funding cliff, that amounted to about 7% decline each month. So it would have to be twice as bad as that to deplete the surplus. The BEA's estimate for the 3-month quarantine scenario is a growth of 2.5% for the first half of the year and 4.5% during the second half of the year, and 15 months for it to come back to a current track. The state, as you know, is passing a continuing resolution, or we expect that they're going to vote to pass a continuing resolution. We are not asking you for that. What we're doing is saying we are counting on the same revenue, because a continuing resolution would indicate that all things would be the same. All things won't be the same for us because we have differences in things like insurance, utility bills, and such as that, and we'll have differences in salaries that we replace one individual with another, and then we'll have some jobs that we probably will not fill due to attrition. So we aren't asking for a continuing resolution. We're telling you that we're building the 2021 budget based on the exact same revenue that we had this year. We will reevaluate it at the end of the first quarter, September the 30th, and then we'll reevaluate it again at the end of the second quarter, December the 30th. In addition to that, we have the opportunity, like other employers, to hold FICA and pay it back in portions. We are doing that. I don't know right now because Marty told you we are going to finish the year strong. I fully expect us to have a surplus to put into our fund balance. That's always been one of our goals, to continually increase that because it increases CPIF. But we are going to defer the payment in case there is a need, and that basically means we can hold 6.2% for the rest of the year. That would equate to about $40 million roughly. We pay it back 50%. It's deferred to December 31st, 2021. 50% would be deferred to December 31st, 2022. So those are the assumptions, and we'll send you my note sheet out, but those are the assumptions that we're building our budget on. Marty, is there anything you want to add?
I just want to make sure on the FICA part, the salaries are about 40 million, and then it's the 6.2% of that. So we're looking at a little over 2 million that we would be able to have for cash flow purposes, with half due December 2021 and half due 22. So we're looking at about $2.5 million or so, and that's just an estimate that we would be able to use for cash flow. I don't think we will need it, but it sure would be nice to have it just in case. One other thing I just wanted to say real quick, we did get some preliminary information on the reassessment. Travis has been working on this for us based on, and this is not final, this is rough calculations, us maintaining our millage at the 150.72 that we have been using. The way it calculated out, our rollback millage would be 145.12. We still have some millage that we did not exercise the last few years when you look at the look back. So we would be able to maintain our millage number at the 150.72 that we had for last year. Does anybody have questions on that? They're again very rough estimates, nothing finalized yet. It's only about 5 mils difference. I'll bring more information on that. I hope to have a little bit more for our May 7th meeting.
The fact that we can keep our millage at 150.72 during a reassessment year is going to be exceptional during this budget year. That overall should be somewhere close to 750 to maybe as much as 900,000. Yes, ma'am.
Can we get some handouts on everything you're telling me? Because I'm looking over here, I don't have it in my packet, and I don't see where I got it electronically.
It was not sent out. This is something we put together. It's changing every day. We get more information, so we'll get this out to you.
We'll send it to you. Most of it's on yellow legal pad, but we'll have it typed up and sent to you.
And that's good. And even I understand that obviously our numbers are going to change, but it would help me to be able to visualize it, even knowing if you want to put draft numbers subject to change. That would be great for me. Thank you.
If we don't have we do not have final numbers yet. We're still working on numbers because we're still focusing on the revenue side of it right now. We're trying to make sure where our revenues are going to be. Like Dr. James said, we're trying to keep, our goal is to keep them at the same exact level they were last year, and we're budgeting from there. But we can certainly send you these assumptions.
Sounds like you're well ahead of the game, and I really appreciate the time and effort that you're putting into it.
Thanks, ma'am.
Sounds good.
Yes, I kind of want to second what Cindy said. Thanks for looking ahead. You know, we definitely want to look past the 2021 school year. We don't know when the full effect of this coronavirus is going to hit. So, you know, these numbers and looking ahead, you know, past 2021 into 22 school year is very important. So thank you for doing that. And I was also glad to hear that we have 24 months to use the CARES Act funds. So I appreciate that too. Thank you.
Yeah, Marty, the one thing I have heard from county council that they're concerned that there's going to be a lot of appeals with regard to reassessment this year, simply because the reassessments are going to be based on previous assessments done prior to March of this year. They were done like starting in October or September of last year up through the first of this year. So any reassessment numbers have not taken into account what has happened since March the 1st. And that could mean that you're going to have a tremendous amount of people appealing their reassessment, feeling that their property values may have gone down now.
And the thing about it is, Mr. Bingham, we want to stay at 150.72 if we can. We've got just over 6 mills of look back that we have not accessed. So as long as it doesn't take more than 6 mills for us to stay at 150.72, we can absorb a little bit of that. Obviously, if everybody shows up and appeals the reassessment, we can. But we've got 6 look back mills that we can play with.
Yeah, I think their challenge will be in the appeal will be, do they have the comps to prove that it's going down, even though there's nobody, because that's going to be the problem. There won't be many sales.
Right.
It's interesting. I've had several friends that have actually listed their homes and still they are selling within a couple of days in our communities. You just don't see, there's just not the availability of inventory. So it would be interesting. And of course, those are private residences, and ours is going to come from industry and from business property. But it'd be interesting to see how that goes.
Okay. Are we done with finance?
If the board is.
All right, let's move on to the construction update, Don.
Okay, you have any back at the construction update for April of 2020. There are a few things in here that I wanted to point out that I didn't catch before it was sent out, because we've been sending them back and forth to each other. Like the second one under Airport High School, the logo will be installed on the back of the softball scoreboard. That's going to be softball and baseball.
Don?
Yes.
I just want to thank you for your work on that. I know I asked to get some kind of notification on the back. As people are coming into the airport, it kind of makes our district proud to be able to see that this is our school district and that these fine facilities are Lexington 2 and Airport High School. And in particular, I do have to give a shout out and credit to our Congressman Joe Wilson, because he's the one who grabbed me in the airport one day and said, Beth, you know, Lexington 2, y'all really need to do something about this. So last time I was in DC, I told Joe that we had done that and that he needed to take a look next time he flies through. So thank you so much.
I think that's the only thing that I had on there that I wanted to point out. Now we are going to be when we put the softball bleachers back at airport, they're warped because they were under all that silt for so long. When I got here, they were under about 3 feet of silt on the back legs, and evidently when we pulled them out of there, we warped them somehow. So we're going to be coming to you and asking for a little money for that at some point in time, probably in the next meeting. But I just wanted to point those couple things out to you.
Don, as far as facilities go, I assume with the governor's announcement Tuesday that we're going to use the opportunity that we got an extra month now of being in buildings that we can do things that we haven't been in the past. So I assume we will make hay while the sun's shining on that.
Yes, sir. Bill McPherson sending me pictures. Ron Arnold had Defender scraping chewing gum off of cafeteria tables all day today. So, yes, sir, we're getting a lot of stuff cleaned that we haven't cleaned in a while. And they've already started their stripping, moving things out into the hallways, and basically they've started their summer work. And part of what we're trying to do with some savings that we have is we're trying to get some better equipment to clean our facility. We're asking the Defender to do that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the construction update? I don't see anybody, so let's move on. Next item on the agenda is the executive session.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Trustees enter in closed session for the following: consideration of personnel appointments and reappointments and resignations, consideration of 2 requests of out-of-district tuition waiver, discussion of property matters, and discussion of contractual matters.
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second it. But Mr. Bingham, real quick, I just wanted, before we go into executive session, I was able to pull up on my computer and see how we look on this screen over here. But I do see we have about 56 people actually watching us in our community, and just want to thank them for joining us today. I know this is probably not as good as maybe some Netflix shows that might be on, but we really appreciate your interest in the community, and we thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Certainly. All right, we have a motion and a second to enter executive session. All those in favor, raise their hand. Okay, we have a unanimous vote. So motion carries. We will head to executive session. Before we leave, I want to let you know the way this is going to work is we will exit this meeting. The meeting will stay on this meeting will stay here, but we're going to exit, and you should have in your email a code for the executive session where we will join that meeting separately. So you're going to exit out of this meeting. We will go into the executive session meeting where you're going to use that executive session code. Then when we finish an executive session, you're going to use this same code, and we're going to come back to this meeting so we can close it out. And at the executive session meeting, obviously won't be streamed to the public. It'll be a private meeting. So if there's any questions, now would be the time before we all leave this meeting to head to executive session. I'll give you a few minutes to leave this meeting if you need to take a restroom break or anything, and then we'll come back and we'll join in the executive session with this meeting when we leave here. Okay? All right, we will now take the break and we'll see the board members and the cabinet in the executive session meeting in a few minutes.
Ooh.
office. Oh. And the thing is set up in the back.
Okay. Don, Jake, and Dan.
And we're ready to go. Did I hear you correct, David? We're ready to resume?
Yes, sir. We're ready to resume.
Okay. All right. We are now coming out of executive session. Kevin, I'd entertain a motion to come out.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the meeting be reconvened in open session and the appropriate affidavit executed.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kessler. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we are now out of executive session. As a result of discussions in executive session, are the motions to be put forth before the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept personnel appointments, reappointments, and resignations.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by raising your hands. Okay, motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve of all renew contracts.
Okay, we have a motion to approve all the new contracts, the new renewal contract.
Renewals.
Do I have a second? I think Ms. Kessler was second.
Yes.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Okay, motion passes. Next.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the administrative contracts.
Motion to approve the new administrative contract. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Mr. VR Hughes.
Okay, so we have everybody voting for with Ms. Branham recused.